How many times did you smile this year? There wasn't much to smile about, was there? Between the COVID pandemic and the year that started with the Delhi riots, a crashing economy, and all kinds of other social and probably personal churn, this has been a year from hell. So, this is the day to actually celebrate the few men and women who actually made us smile. In fact, they were the only thing that made us smile in 2020. We're looking back at the year that was through the cartoonist gaze. And it is my pleasure to welcome on the program two of India's finest cartoonists. I can see Hemant Morparia on my screen, and I'm waiting for Sandeep Adhwaryu to join us. He was right there, but we just lost him. That's the kind of year it's been. And I'm sure he'll be back with us in a moment from now. But welcome, Hemant, and it's a complete delight to have you on the program with us. And we'll be looking at some of your best cartoons. You encouraged us to laugh in a year when there wasn't much to laugh about. And I don't know how many people know this about you. I'm sure those who live in Mumbai, in Maharashtra do, but you're a man of many parts. You're also a doctor and you're a cartoonist. So you had the two most relevant jobs this year. So Hemant, first let me ask you, what sort of year has it been for you? And there I can see Sandeep also. Sandeep Adhwaryu, welcome to the program. As I said, two of our finest commentator, cartoonists, the only people who made us laugh this year. So Hemant, aapse shuru karti hu. How was your year? And did you find much to laugh about at all?
You know what? How was the year? I don't have to say. I have to just show. ऐसे दिखाता हूँ मैं. The year was year ऐसा था यार. Less said about it, the better.
Can you show me that again? Because you know what, we were
no. I said how was the year? How was the year? तो ये था भाई. ये ऐसे. बस. या तो ऐसे, या तो ऐसे, या तो ऐसे, या तो ऐसे, कुछ भी कर लो. यार ऐसा था बस.
तो फिर आपने उसमें भी ह्यूमर कैसे ढूंढा? I think what we need to understand about you guys is like, how do you find humor in the darkest moments of our lives?
See, I mean, एक तो क्या है, bad news is generally good news for a humorist, or bad news is generally good news for the press. ये भी होता है कुछ घटना होती है तभी कुछ निकलता है, something comes out of. I mean, if everybody is happy and everybody is pleasant and everybody is good and saintly and all, there is no humor. So situationally, something peculiar, odd, negative that happens is the raw material for humor. But I think यहाँ पे उसकी हद हो गई. उसके ultimate limit पे पहुंच गया.
I mean, it was a year to do this for the whole year, basically, right?
Yeah. So, well, I would say it was more like, whistling in the dark humor होता है, which makes you feel a little, confident, which may be for confidence, or a bit like nervous laughter भी होता है. और third thing होता है release phenomenon, you laugh because you are too scared. वो भी होता है. So हर किस्म का laughter होता है, हर किस्म का humor होता है.
But कहानी होती थी ना, हम जब छोटे थे तो हमें बताया जाता था कि सर्कस के जो क्लाउन्स होते हैं वो आपको तो हंसाते हैं लेकिन बहुत सैड होते हैं.
That is the cliche. But I think यहाँ पे clowns हम सैड नहीं थे, पूरी वर्ल्ड सैड थी. यानी तो ऑडियंस भी सैड थी, हम भी सैड थे, तो फिर हमारा कुछ अलग रोल था. एज अ मेडिकल पर्सन आई वाज alleviating somebody's, maybe making them feel a little better or get bit better. And on the humor side, maybe if you put on a smile, you feel better. You may not become better, but you feel better.
So let me get Sandeep's perspective, and then we'll start looking at your cartoons and some of your finest work. And as I said, it's a delight for me to have Sandeep and Hemant on the screen, because I see that two of the finest creative minds. Because cartooning, Sandeep, brings together so many different skills, right? There's satire in it. There's drawing in it. There's actually the best kind of, some would say, political commentary in it. There's journalism in it. It's a marriage of so many skills, right? So do you agree with us that this has been a year where there's just been so much fodder? Like, it's been a horrible year, but probably a great year for satirists and cartoonists.
Yes, very true. I'll take taking cue from Hemant. Yeah. It was just like any other year. It was, again, we can say that every year has good news and bad news. So, just like any other year, this year too had many good news and bad news. So, for instance, the bad news is that it was a very good year for the cartoonists and satirists.
Yeah,
And talking about good news, yes, vaccine is round the corner. Again, bad
yeah,
news was that the economy shrunk by 25%, right? But
yeah.
the good news again is that it didn't shrink by 100%, right? So again, the good news is that herd immunity is setting in, but
Yeah.
bad news is that herd impunity is also setting in, right? So, so again,
Yeah,
Trump has gone. That's a good news. But Trumpism remains. That's a bad news,
sure,
right?
sure.
And
Right.
industry is growing. Uh, this is good news, but the bad news it's the industry of herd sentiment. Uh, manufacturing is growing, which is again a good news. But the bad news is it's the manufacturing of conspiracies, right? So it's again, so to me, this year is not much different from
Yeah, yeah,
any
yeah.
other
No,
year.
I totally get what you're saying. And before we start looking at your
Yeah.
cartoons, there's an interesting comment on the screen, which I think speaks to what Hemant was saying. You laugh because you're too scared. We're laughing our way through all of this for sure. And so, how sometimes laughter, Reader's Digest, I don't know, I think some of you might be as old as me. Reader's Digest used to say laughter is the best medicine, right? Hemant?
Yes.
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine is a little overrated because if laughter was the best medicine, हम क्या करेंगे? डॉक्टर भी हैं हम. हमारे पास कौन आएगा फिर? Hey, laughter is the best medicine is in quotes. Okay, so
Right.
people medicine is the best medicine. Laughter
Yeah.
will help you feel better. So,
Yeah.
Very true.
हमारा आधा धंधा बंद हो जाएगा.
नहीं आपका धंधा अब जिस जिस स्टेट पे हम हैं आपका धंधा बंद नहीं होगा आई थिंक
हाँ.
the one profession that is going to do well is the medical profession so I
Well,
want
that's a
to
partly true only because all fields are not doing well. You see, many people are, many. So I'll just clarify that all doctors are not doing well. So
acha why is that
no,
why is
because
that
their OPDs are shut. You are not. Your patient load has dropped. People are scared of going to the doctor. People are scared of going to hospitals for non-vital, non-emergency, not acute conditions. You
yeah
understand? There's a
I do understand
huge downfall in the number of patients. You can ask any doctor.
Yeah. So let's start because you've spoken about COVID by looking at some of the sort of the funny bones you managed to tickle despite this pandemic. And I'll start with one of your cartoons, Hemant, which is on COVID. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, I can see this, and it goes from no
Yes.
jobs, no security, no transport, no concern, no support, no sympathy, and then no sense. So,
Yeah.
so do you want to talk a little bit about this? Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, but this is of course refers to the Bihar thing, the elections in Bihar and all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that what happened, and and
yeah. And the
so I mean
promise of
it's
a
bit
free
self-explanatory.
COVID vaccine and so on. Now,
Yes.
tell me,
Yeah, yeah.
when you actually look at a subject and you try and say that okay, I'm going to make a cartoon on this. How does that process actually take place? Give us a little bit of insight. I'll ask you first, Hemant, and then I'll ask the same question to Sandeep.
So I mean, yeah, it's a little difficult to explain. It's just like any other creative process. It's your just mind wanders a bit and settles on a subject where you think you might have a opinion which is uniquely yours, and then you kind of ruminate, let the subconscious work to its bit, and then some ideas happen, some ideas connect, some ideas don't connect. Basically वो subconscious होता है मेरे हिसाब से, then it something kind of bubbles up and then you feel aha, that's the aha moment, and then you think it could be refined further, how it
Yeah,
could be best presented. So it's a bit of it is subconscious, bit of it is conscious, bit of it is craft, bit of it is art, bit of it is rumination, bit of it is opinion, bit of it is being open to things from all sides, what people say, what you read, what you overhear. So creativity essentially is a mysterious process. It's difficult to define and sort of put it in a box, but these are the rough parameters under which it
What was
works,
that?
in my
What
view.
was that point in the year? And we'll just take a look at Sandeep's cartoons on COVID next. But what was that point in the year, Hemant, when you learned how to laugh at COVID? Because it couldn't have been from the beginning. पहले तो एक shock हुआ होगा. But you were a
नहीं,
doctor
लाभ
also, so
क्या वो
don't
है
you
ना,
think?
देर इज अ लाइन फ्रॉम अ मूवी, ऑप्शन ही क्या है, ऑप्शन ही क्या है, मीनिंग इट इज अ, I mean, look, I was attending to COVID patients. I was wearing the PPE and I was wearing the suits, and I didn't know which patient would be infected or not. So, I mean, I had a dual role in the sense that I didn't give up on my duties as a doctor. I was attending to patients. You never know if this patient is infected or not, whether he's going to
Yeah.
transmit it to you, whether you're going to bring it back home to family. So it was a dual kind of stress for
So
me in the sense.
how
Oh,
did your role, how did your wearing the hat as a doctor impact your eye as a cartoonist?
no, we saw the complexities of the whole. So I would hesitate in making random or rather extreme viewpoint, because it's a complex disease. Firstly,
Yeah.
there is, it is tempered. Let us say my view on the disease, the process, the evolution of the virus, everything will be tempered, or the vaccine. It will
Yeah.
be, it is subject to new information today or tomorrow.
Sure.
So,
Sure. So Sandeep, how did it work for you? We'll bring up your cartoons in a moment from now, especially on the pandemic. But if you were to, yeah, there we can see these are, of course, looking at the American election, and we'll come back to that in just a moment from now. But if you can talk a little bit about COVID first, and then we'll have you talk about some of your other works.
Yeah, talking about COVID, Barkha, you asked Hemant, how did we react, when it struck all of us. To me, it's I would say that our wiring, the wiring of cartoonist or the satirist is bit different. You are if you the moment you see some crisis or something bad happening, you start looking for humor in it. So that
Yeah.
that was that obviously was my first
Yeah,
impulse.
I mean,
And
we can see some of your COVID work now on our screen, and I
yeah,
hope you can see it too. Yeah. So talk a
yeah,
little bit about what your emotions were when you were. Yeah, this is what you said. I hate herd immunity. I love herd impunity.
yes,
That's yeah.
yeah,
MLA says
yeah.
boycott Muslim vegetable sellers. And yeah, so there's so much you capture in this cartoon, right? You're talking about COVID, you're talking about the politics of hate, you're talking about the politics of religious hatred. If we can just go back to that last set for a second at our back end, talk a little bit about these cartoons, because they're not just making a point about COVID, Sandeep. They're also making a point about how we reacted as a country, as a society, as a people, that even in the middle of a pandemic, we found space to hate.
Yes, very true. To me, post-COVID, post-COVID, this migrant crisis happened, and then economy started coming down. So in a way, there was a tsunami of bad news. And at
Yeah,
times, when you sit down to do a cartoon, then you get really so overwhelmed by the entire situation that for there were times when I sat down to work, and for a couple of hours there was all blank, because it takes a lot to get humor out of such terrible situations, right?
yeah,
So and
yeah,
also most of the process of thinking or ideation, as Hemant said, it happens subconsciously.
yeah,
If it's a labored effort, then invariably you tend to screw up the cartoon, right?
yeah, yeah.
So yes, that's how it's been. It was not a very happy experience, I must say.
Yeah, but let me ask now both of you, what is the reaction? So the one thing that cartoonists like yourselves enjoy is क्योंकि आप उसको humor में लिपेट देते हैं, you get away with a lot more than journalists like myself get away with. So if I say something, people take offense much more easily. But when it's presented as a cartoon, I think there's much greater tolerance. Well, at least there used to be. I mean, I remember people like leaders like Manmohan Singh and LK Advani actually going to exhibitions of cartoons that were on them, right? And I don't actually know if today's politicians would do that. So before we look at some of your more political work, Hemant, let me ask you that. How do politicians or powerful people respond when you make fun of them? Do they have the
I
skill to
think
laugh at it?
the powerful people know the game. They know the game. What I'm more scared of is the reader now. Is the reader the threshold of the reader has dropped alarmingly. They, like I said, Ministry of Taking Offense. I think Sandeep
Yeah.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
इतना हो गया कि what I could publish even 5 years back, I will get angry mail, or the editor will phone in to say, "Bhai, you got 3 complaints for this particular cartoon." So I'll give you a
Really?
small example. I don't know if the cartoon is here in this one.
Yeah.
So I show a man in a Chinese restaurant, he's asking the waiter. Okay, it's a Chinese restaurant. It's a restaurant in China, perhaps. I have not
Okay.
mentioned that.
I
So
don't
the
know if it's
man
in
is
this
I.
chat, but maybe we look for it. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
So the man is asking the waiter, "How's the bat? How is the
Yeah.
bat?" So the waiter is responds by saying, "The bat is vaccinated."
Right.
So so the uske baad editor said, "I got 3 complaints. This is a racist
What is the
cartoon."
complaint?
So,
How?
so I don't
How
know.
is it
I don't.
racist? How
I
is it
don't
racist?
know. Don't ask me. I didn't find it racist. Then I passed it around to if do people find it racist? They said, no, we don't find it. You think there were 3 complaints? I got 3 complaints. This is a racist cartoon.
So you're
So
actually saying more than the politician or the celebrity, the backlash
yes,
is from the consumer, the reader, the viewer.
that's right. It's a woke readership, which is what is allowed. It's the woke leadership, cancel culture, and the industry of outrage.
I
Outrage
love
as the
that.
most
I love
imagined,
that.
imagined
You have to say that slowly for me because I just love what you just said. The industry of,
outrage. The
yes.
woke culture and the cancel culture, the woke readership, cancel culture, and the industry of outrage at the most imaginary slights. Rather, they are not even there. And
Yeah.
this is making the whole world into a moronic, homogeneous, laughterless, idiotic, and intolerant. Let me use the word intolerant here. Intolerant people, where
Yeah.
anything can be something ist, misogynist, racist, fascist, kuch bhi,
So
sexist.
too much political correctness, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Too much
Or too much,
politically correct.
I would say it works in all, right. It can be too much intolerance, it can be too much political correctness, it can be too much what you call cancel culture. Sandeep, is that how it's worked for you as well? Is that how it's worked for you? Sandeep? Sandeep, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure Sandeep can hear me. Hemant, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So as we try and reconnect to Sandeep, Hemant, talk a little bit about, you are basically saying it's too much political correctness, but sometimes does it
Yeah.
work the other way as well? When we
Yeah,
live in this
yeah,
environment,
I'm with. Yeah, I am with
go ahead. Sandeep's trying to
Hemant
rejoin, but
on
Hemant,
that. But let me say,
yeah,
yeah. Can
sorry.
you hear me, Barkha?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead, Sandeep, if you can. Go ahead. I think you just don't have the best connectivity right now, but if you can, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. We just lost Sandeep there. That's fine. We'll reconnect to him. So Hemant, my question was going to be about trolling. How has that worked for you? Where do you face the maximum backlash from?
Like you said, from the trolls, which is,
No, but
I mean,
what are the things that annoy them the most?
see, I think, everybody is divided into like for or against, for something or against something. So if
Yeah,
you take a reasoned middle ground where you criticize both sides,
yeah,
everybody wants something either for, I mean, if it is for somebody, the people who are for it will push it, the people who are against it will troll, and the reverse, exactly the reverse. So middle ground is lost, analysis is lost, reasoned,
It's the same, by the
reasoned,
way, it's the same in journalism. You
yeah,
have to today be either chamcha या मोर्चा, right?
bus,
आप या सरकार के चमचे या आपको झंडा पकड़ के एक्टिविज्म करना है, जर्नलिज्म नहीं करना
yeah,
है.
correct,
तो
correct,
ये
correct,
मैं ये लाइन पेटेंट करके दो साल से बैठी हुई हूँ या चमचा या मोर्चा.
yes,
This is what people expect
correct,
you to be today. Not journalists,
right,
not
yeah,
chroniclers,
yeah,
not dispassionate observers, right? So
right.
it's interesting that you say that this is happening to cartoonists as well. Sandeep, I'm really hoping you can hear me. I'm going to try another attempt at getting you into the show. Go ahead. Hemant was talking about the cancel culture and too much political correctness. Has that been your experience also? संदीप आप म्यूट पे हैं हाँ now you're back बोलिए
Well,
संदीप संदीप
Hemant is
संदीप
being quintessential
संदीप no Sandeep, you're on mute. You need to unmute yourself. Sandeep, you're on mute. Okay, what I'm going to do is till we fix this to him, let's take a look at some of the other cartoons that we have on our screen. So these are some of Hemant's works while we try and bring up
Yeah.
Sandeep, right? So Hemant, you of course recognize, you know,
Yes.
your own work, but for the benefit of our viewers. Did you always, Hemant, have the skill to laugh at life? Did you always have that, or did something happen from your life that enabled that skill in you?
No, well, if you want the cliche clown answer, obviously sorrow makes you laugh, but that's the cliched answer. But no, I think it's an extension of the creativity that I think I have. That creativity is best kind of in comes out in humor
Yeah.
rather, because there's drawing, there is lateral thinking, there is observation, there is variety, there is commentary. So I think it's an extension of the creative process, particularly with a special interest in humor.
Now, you've spoken about how readers are more intolerant than powerful people, but can you share how some of these big name people whom you've poked fun at have reacted to your work, and have they
Quite
ever?
pleasantly, actually, I mean, like Bal Thackeray, I was
Yeah,
told by people close to him that he regularly saw my cartoons and enjoyed them. So there
and
was a.
that's because he also fancied himself to be a cartoonist, right?
Yeah, but he was not a bad cartoonist. I must tell you that he had his skills were there definitely. So he was a fairly good cartoonist. But
Mm-hmm.
so the people whom we think are necessarily going to be intolerant are not always so. I found that I made some very very scathing and very sharp comments on him while he was alive. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and there was absolutely no nothing that kind of nobody came with
But
sticks to my door or broke.
do you find that the old world politician or the older politician was less thin-skinned than the current politics?
As a matter of fact, I have not found significant because you see, political to oppose humor, is a very it's like admitting you don't have a sense of humor. So
Right.
you have to be a stupid politician to take panga with a cartoonist, because yeah, why would you want
Yeah,
to do
that's
that? Yeah,
very right.
ignore it. It's
Yeah.
like putting petrol on the cartoon. It will flare up, and everybody will say, ye to stupid hai. I mean, the politician is stupid. He can't take a laugh. He can't take a joke. So best would be, if you don't like it, ignore it. The smart
Yeah.
guys do that. Smart guys
Yeah.
would just ignore it, because
Yeah. But
if he opposes it, it gets 10 times or 100 times the publicity.
that's what I was saying, that
And
you guys,
your image is unless it's a like a purely vulgar or some kind of a dirty cartoon, I would, best to be ignored, I would say, if it.
that's why I said that you guys get away with a lot more than we guys
Yeah,
do.
but
But
not the readers. Like I told you, readers are the ones who are now the censors. Actually, they're
readers
the
are
ones
the
who.
censors.
Yeah,
Fascinating. Okay,
yeah.
let me make another
So,
attempt
like
at
I
your.
said, politicians are not the only villains in the country.
Yeah,
Average person can also be a villain.
yeah, yeah.
So
Let me see.
often the cartoonists have the villain as the politician. No, no, I said the society can also be a villain.
Yeah.
खाली
So
fault
Sandeep,
वहाँ नहीं है fault. हाँ.
हाँ,
yeah,
सही बात है बिल्कुल सही बात है बट संदीप बिफोर वी लॉस्ट यू वी वर
yeah.
टॉकिंग अबाउट या हेमंत वाज सेइंग कि एक एक वोक रीडर एक कैंसल कल्चर एक इंडस्ट्री ऑफ आउटरीच ही थिंक्स दैट रीडर्स आर मोर इंटॉलरेंट people armed janta is more intolerant than powerful people because most powerful people, especially politicians, know that it's not cool to take a panga with a cartoonist because basically you're saying ki, yaar, I can't even take a joke about myself. Hence, now have this new culture of roasts, for example, in stand-up comedy and so on. What has been your experience? Have you ever had a really bad backlash? And we'll pick up some of your political cartoons, but I just want to ask you that, Sandeep. Have you ever had a really bad backlash to your work?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm with Hemant on this, but let me say this, Hemant, you are being quintessential anti-national, so be careful. So yes, and also, Barkha, for some reason, this thing is that,
Yeah.
the kind of atmosphere that we live in these days,
Yeah.
There's some correlation between the insecurity of politicians and the way they react to humor, satire, and and even contempt notices being sent to cartoonists. So there's some correlation. There has to be some correlation between, if you're that's all self-confident, say, like it could be blasphemous or whatever, like Nehru. Like,
Yeah.
you could easily get away showing Nehru completely without clothes. So those times have completely, and in that sense, we are all downhill. So
Yeah.
things are changing, and they are changing pretty fast.
Yeah.
So yes,
I, I'm
yeah,
glad you've actually brought up this contempt notice business because, Hemant was saying ki it's the reader who's more agitated, but there is, all of this can't happen without a larger political culture, a larger media culture, right? So Sandeep,
yeah.
do you find yourself self-censoring? Do you censor yourself? Do you now know कि यार ये इसमें तो पंगा हो जाएगा?
Well, what I can say is that self-censored, I don't know, but what I can definitely say is that, humor too mutates, right? And it mutates, and there can be no vaccine for humor. If somebody
Yeah,
is planning to bring, kind of kill humor, that's never happening, right? So humor finds its way, right?
yeah.
So yeah,
So there's no
I don't see, yeah.
vaccine against humor pandemic, right?
Sorry, come again, please.
There's no vaccine against the humor pandemic.
There can never be. There can
Yeah,
never be. If somebody is planning, bad luck.
yeah. But self-censorship, talk a little bit about it. We do have stand-up. Okay, so like you guys
Yeah,
are different, right? You speak through your work, but there are others, and I mean, there have been these this has happened in the past. It's happened under the UPA. I remember, what was his name?
Asim
Asim's,
Trivedi. Asim
yeah,
Trivedi.
Asim
Yes.
Trivedi's Asim's cartoons on Parliament, where Parliament was depicted as basically a loo. That landed him in jail, and that was in the UPA time. We now have, what's happening with Kunal Kamra and what's happened with Rachika. So we have all of this happening, right? So what does that do, Hemant, to self-censorship? Do you guys censor
See,
yourself?
yeah, and I'll tell you, it's more about the personality of the creator. So some
Hmm.
people are different, they express differently. I express differently. So
Right.
I may say this, my message may be the same, but the mode of saying will be different.
But I was going to
So
ask you that because sometimes there is a generational collision also that's taking place here, right?
sure,
I find it in journalism as well. It's very difficult to actually convince younger reporters that you need your work to speak, not you to speak. And I find
sure,
actually the same in a lot of the new generation of stand-up comics whose tweets are designed to be offensive. Whereas I'd
yeah,
much rather see them create a piece of work that
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
makes the same point. There's greater
So
lightness, greater art in
I
that.
think, yeah, your point is very interesting and quite good. But I think it would, if you wanted to distill it, it would be coming down to the me generation or the greater individualization of opinion of
Yeah,
it becomes a personal thing, for them. So
yeah,
everything
yeah,
becomes personal, and even the outrage is personal, and the
yeah,
commentary is also very personal.
yeah.
So
So,
this
so we
the
have an
generational shift would be, if somebody older would be
yeah,
maybe a little more universal in trying the method of expression and the content of expression, where the younger perhaps is more individual and more narcissistic, if you want that term,
yeah, yeah.
perhaps, yeah.
I agree. It's happening across professions. Our show producer Muskan has a question for both of you. The gap between the cartoonist intention and what a reader perceives. So you go out to make another point. Someone else takes away something completely different, which is of course the sort of the death of the author argument. How do you see that, Hemant? And then the same question for Sandeep.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be responsible for somebody's misinterpretation. It's everything is a Rorschach test. I mean, somebody will see a
Yeah.
dirty picture, somebody will see a butterfly. So मैं क्या करूं?
सही
I
बात
can't
है
help it. So
सही
I
बात है
can't be
I
responsible for somebody's misinterpretation. So
it's the same thing as being called biased. जिस दिन आप किसी पार्टी की फेवर में स्टोरी कर दो, you're the best journalist. जिस दिन आप किसी के खिलाफ कर
yeah,
दो,
right. See,
तो
the
वो
simple thing is look at my history. Look
yeah,
for example, how biased have I been, or how, if you find that that is the case, then I have no answer to that. But if you don't find it, then you don't really have a leg to stand on.
Sandeep, same question for you.
Yeah, when it comes to subjectivity, I'm afraid these times, you are held responsible for whatever you do, whatever you draw. So,
That's right.
uh, inevitably those, imaginary red lines are there in your mind. They are at play when you're working. So you have to certainly, in my case, it works definitely. You have to be more subtle, more nuanced, but yeah, and that's how it works, with me at
Mm-hmm.
least. I have to be mindful of those red lines, being working for the print medium. It's not
Yeah. But who's
yeah.
drawing those red lines for you? Who's drawing who decides the red lines? Is it obviously if you're employed somewhere, the organization has red lines, but what are your own red lines? Okay, let me ask both of you this. What is the one thing that you'd never make fun of? What is the one thing that Sandeep you would never make fun
No,
of?
Well, I would never make fun of religion.
Oh,
This is
interesting.
uh,
Explain that.
yeah,
Explain
yeah.
that. Explain
Yeah, I
that.
will never make fun because, to me, for instance, if you take the example of that Danish cartoon, Gallant Postman,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't agree with that cartoon at all. Whichever
Okay.
the religion, you can criticize a religion, but never, mock at the religion, never mock at the, religious sentiments or the faith or the, path which, religious path which people follow. So that's a
Right.
strict no-no for me because, cartoons are supposed to be stress relievers, right? And if they are, they end up creating more stress and more arson, there's no point.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
Hemant, do you agree with that? Do you agree
yeah.
with
Religion is
Sandeep
the
that you
first
would
thing
never
that,
make fun of religions?
yeah, because see, these are, very personal and strongly held beliefs by religion, by so many people. So, and there is, see, religion is not an issue of logic or something. Religion is a matter of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's not an area I want to step into also.
But when you say it's not an area you want to step into, does that mean that even something that's around a religious theme you would not
No,
touch?
no. I mean, there were several cartoons on Shabrimala. There were several
Yeah.
cartoons on the Ram Mandir. So there were several. No. There were cartoons on Babri and all. So that's what happens around, the subject of religion. Of course, that's fair game, but per se, religion per se. But they would be like I would include Mahabharata characters in my cartoon, so that is fine. That's all right.
But
You
there's a
know.
question. There's a question from Salim who says this is sad. Red lines curtail creativity. This just plays into the hands of those drawing the red lines. Whereas a satirist or a cartoonist, you should be trying to bury and blur those lines. And
No,
isn't there a point
that's see, you can't. You don't tell me what to draw. If you want, you draw that. So I mean,
yeah.
you can't say you should draw. I mean, this is what I will draw. I will
But for
make my
example,
points. Yeah.
let's probe this a little bit more, right? You said Sabrimala, you would maybe draw a cartoon on. What about the fact that people have got killed in this country in the name of beef politics, right? Now, the
So
fact
there
of the
were
matter,
several cartoons on that by me. Yeah.
yeah. So you
So
would pick up something like
so
that,
that is para-religious. I would say this is. I would, if you want a term like that. This
yeah.
is para-religious issues. They are not primary religious issues. You have Hindus eating beef also, so it's not some sanctioned by religion. So,
So you would
so
also
this is
not agree with the Danish
this is
cartoons.
about society. This is about habits, about crime, about violence. So that's para-religious actually. So
Okay, there's a question on what is the difference between mocking and humor, and actually who decides that. Sandeep, do you want to take that? What is the difference between mocking somebody and a good joke?
Well, humor to me, one thing is clear. Uh, Humor to me is not a joke. It's not an entertainment. It should humor vis-a-vis say satire. It should provoke people, but it should not provoke them into violence. It should provoke them into thinking. Right.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so this is how I define my humor or satire
Yeah.
or lampooning.
That's well said. Okay, we have a couple of minutes left. I want you both to share some personal anecdotes. You know, what have you, what or who have you enjoyed caricaturing the most, and why? So I'll start with you, Sandeep.
Yeah, to me, look, obvious, everyone would enjoy doing, every caricaturist or cartoonist would enjoy doing uh, Lalu, right?
Yeah,
So now that he's not in the thick of the things,
yeah.
it's really bad for us. And obviously Manmohan Singh and
Manmohan
Manmohan,
Singh was like made, and I have to say that he was a pretty good sport about it. But Manmohan Singh was like made for it. He was like a he was like he wrote himself into the script.
exactly. He was like customized or tailor made for the cartoonist
But he was
or the
quite
satirist.
democratic about it. One has to give him that.
Right. And obviously Modi ji, but without showing him. So that is
Acha.
how.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
uh, इशारे के लिए समझदारी काफी होता है. So I presume that हम सारे समझदार हैं. So तो वो
So does
इशारा
that
करना ही
mean
काफी होता है.
no?
So
But does
it's
that
like
mean
you don't
Sandeep?
have to. Sorry,
Hmm.
yeah.
No, no. Complete your thought. Complete your
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. So you don't have to bring home. You don't really have to work too hard to bring home your point when it comes to Modi ji, right? You just have to give a slight nudge to the reader, and it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what has changed in all the years that you've been cartooning, Sandeep? What has changed? What has actually changed over the years? Apart from the cancel culture and the political correctness, what else has changed?
Well, that's the only thing which has changed, and it's a huge change because people nowadays, these days they are ready to take offense at the drop of the hat,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
yeah, they are hunting for opportunities where they can get offended, right? So
yeah,
it becomes at times very difficult, very taxing to you know mm, not to cross those red lines. If you don't cross those red lines, it's very difficult to function in
yeah.
cartooning or in satire. Yeah.
Yeah. So other than so you've said Lalu, Manmohan Singh, and Narendra Modi, but done differently. And let me ask Hemant the same question.
Yeah, so I particularly enjoyed drawing Bal Thackeray. So, it was a cartoonist tackling on a cartoonist, and actually, I was fairly aggressive, but not mocking. And mocking mocking has a tone of contempt in it. So I loved drawing Bal Thackeray, and I knew that I had a feeling he was a sport. Meaning he was a sport. He could take these things. There would be no attacks and all that. And second, of course, is Mr. Narendra Modi. So people who are extreme in some way, are
Yeah,
extremely good fodder for a cartoonist. Those who have characteristics of, like who go to like the ends.
yeah.
So that's what I loved. Both these
So there's a
fellows.
there's a great Modi Advani cartoon by you on the screen right now.
Yes, that's right.
How did it? Have you ever got a call from a politician saying, "Hey, Hemant, that was very mean"? Like maybe
No,
like
I mean maybe the relatives have called. Once or twice some
relatives,
relatives of daughters or sons and all have called saying,
and
"Hey,
and
that was a
and
bit."
then
They would qualify it by saying, "We are your fans, but don't do this," and something like that. So, but it would
right.
be in a friendly way because, like I said, you don't want to get on the wrong side of a humorist, at least
Yeah,
publicly.
yeah. So how would you react to that? How would you react
No,
to that?
I mean, you just hear them out and continue doing your work. Yeah, hear everybody out. Fair enough. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But you don't really change your approach. You just, if
Okay.
you also look at, I mean, is what it really, I mean, I listen to everybody. So, I mean, I would
Okay.
still say,
You,
was this on?
so you guys have told us who you like to sketch and make fun of. Do you have a favorite cartoon this year? I don't know if we can find them in our stack right now, but we've got to close now. So from both of you, do you have a
That's,
favorite cartoon?
I mean, there have been so many. So, like I said, when you ask somebody to choose The favorite cartoon is usually the one you are making next. So that is the easy answer. Yeah,
So what are
but
you making next? What are you making next?
right now, Mumbai Mirror has shut, so I have to find a
Are you finding
suitable.
a way to laugh about that too?
Well, it will take some time. It's not so easy. Not so
Sure,
easy.
sure. Sandeep, any favorite
Yeah,
any
yeah.
favorite cartoons that you want to flag?
Sorry, your voice is breaking.
I'm saying any favorite cartoons or moments that you want to flag?
Who's my own cartoons or?
Yes, yes, or anybody else's.
Yeah, that famous cartoon by Abu Abraham,
Yeah,
president signing that emergency
Me.
declaration from his bathtub. That was a beautiful cartoon, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. I remember that. Well, listen, guys, we've
yeah.
got to wrap up, but it's been so much fun. This has been a happy conversation. It's probably been the only happy conversation I've kind of done all year. Where my year, like yours, has been spent reporting death and tragedy and, migrant workers' exodus and all kinds of other horror stories. So thank you for making me laugh, for all of us laugh, and for so many millions of Indians laugh. Keep doing what you're doing. You're really doing a social service at this point. That's the only way to say it. And you're right.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah,
Humor, what's important to underline is that this is real art, right? Humor is not, people who think that cartoonists are just making you laugh. No, they're actually pushing you to think. And their irreverence is all about pushing the boundary of taboos and of questioning power, of interrogating the powerful. That's what effective cartooning is about. So thank you, Hemant. Thank you, Sandeep, and keep doing what you're doing.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Barkha, for having
Thanks.
me here.
Happy
Thank you
New
so
Year.
Bye
much.
bye.
Happy year
Happy New
2000.
Year to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Happy
thank
New
you.
Year.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.